All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard here to the Open Mic program here, Sports Talk Nation. Michael Cohen with you, and we are going to do our picks here for week number 7. Now, let's just quickly review here, folks. Last week, I went 13-2. That's right, 13-2 in my picks. Don't believe me? Check this out. Oh, yes, there you go. There you go. You see it? 13 wins and 2 losses. Okay, I'm not going to gloat. I mean, let's just be honest. It's not that easy to make these kind of predictions. The first few weeks of the year went 9-6 or 9-7, and was just kind of in that spot. And then to go 13-2 just came out of nowhere. Anyway, let's see if we can get close to that kind of number again this week as we begin week number 7. And, of course, we've got a lot of big games this week. The first one we're going to kick off with is at the Meadowlands, the New York Jets taking on the Minnesota Vikings. And the Jets come into this game riding high. They're 3-3. They won their last 2 games of this homestand against the Denver Broncos and the Indianapolis Colts. And a chance this week, if they should win, to sweep a 3-game homestand and get over 500. They are in the mix for a playoff race, and their offense is starting to play better. Sam Darnold looking very good the last couple of weeks and starting to shed that rookie label a little bit. I mean, they open up the offense for him. He's starting to go downfield the football. He had some nice connections with Robbie Anderson a couple weeks ago. You saw him spread the football around last week very nicely to guys like Terrell Pryor and Jermaine Kearse. So, from that standpoint, the Jets have to feel pretty good about themselves. The Vikings, on the other hand, 3-2-1, and they're starting to get rolling. They, too, have won 2 in a row. Got off to a sluggish start this year, but they're starting to play a little better. But really the thing that stands out for me with these 2 teams is how banged up they are coming into this one. You take a look at the Vikings injury report. Dalvin Cook out of this game. He has a hamstring injury. He will not play. Everson Griffith has missed the last 5 weeks. He's not going to play this week. Linval Joseph, a lot of questions about whether he's going to play this week. He is questionable with an ankle injury. And Danielle Hunter, with a groin injury, was a non-participant yesterday in practice, and he's a questionable for this game on Sunday. Now, I would expect that both Joseph and Hunter will play, but if just Hunter, for example, does not play, that's a huge pass rusher that would be missing from Minnesota. He does have 7 sacks this year, so he is a big part of this ball game, whether he plays or not. Now, on the Jets side of things, they too are banged up. We still don't know what Tremaine Johnson's status is going to be. We don't know about Buster Screen. Right now, those 2 guys are questionable. We do know that Quincy Enunwa, the wide receiver, is out with the ankle injury. He's out for a month, and Marcus May out for a month with a broken thumb. So the Jets have some issues, especially in the secondary right now with guys who are healthy, and you have to be worried about the Jets in that kind of game against this offense for the Vikings. Kirk Cousins, of course, has had a very nice start to his Minnesota career, and throwing to guys like Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen is a big part of that. So the Vikings, I could see them having a pretty good day here against this Jets secondary if even Johnson and Screen are out of this game. So we saw the Jets have a hard time last week against the Colts. I don't know if the Jets are going to get the breaks that they got against the Colts last week, this week against a Viking team that doesn't turn the ball over that much. So I think this will be a fun game. I think it will be a fairly high-scoring game, but I'm going to take the Vikings in this one. Jets had a nice little run here for the last couple of weeks, but it's going to come to an end against a very good Minnesota team that could still win this division in the NFC North. And with the way things are going right now, they probably will. I'll take the Vikings to win 27-20 over the New York Jets. Game number 2, we'll keep with this AFC East versus NFC North theme, and let's take a look at the Chicago Bears and the New England Patriots. The Patriots will visit Chicago after their shootout win against the Kansas City Chiefs last week. And one thing you have to like about the Patriots going into this game, and really moving forward throughout the course of this season, are the weapons they have now. You know, you give Tom Brady guys a healthy Chris Hogan. You give him Josh Gordon. All of a sudden, this passing offense looks unstoppable. And it's starting to look a little bit like the old Patriots in a lot of ways. I mean, Sonny Michel's added a nice dimension there at running back. He's already run for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. So they can run the football a little bit better than they have in years past, and they can still throw the football downfield. And this will be a challenge. It'll be an interesting challenge to see how they do going up into Chicago against that Bears defense, which had gotten off to such a great start this year. Now, the Bears ran into something of a buzzsaw last week when they took on the Dolphins. I mean, Brock Osweiler all of a sudden came out of nowhere and threw for 380 yards and 3 touchdowns against this defense. In that back-and-forth game, where the Dolphins did everything they could to give the Bears the game, and the Bears just couldn't take advantage of it, and Miami won in overtime. But for the Bears, they want to get back on track. Last week was a bad loss for them. The one thing you have to like from the Chicago standpoint is that Mitchell Trubisky continues to play well. Last couple of games for him have been fantastic. 3 touchdowns last week against Miami, 6 touchdowns 2 weeks ago against Tampa Bay, 9 touchdowns and a pick. So this could have the earmarks of a shootout in a lot of ways. And with the way things are going in the NFL, with the way these games are being called by officials against defenses, the way the quarterbacks have more free reign than ever before, I could certainly see both Trubisky and Brady putting on a bit of a show. But I'm, again, going to go with the veteran team here. I'm going to go with the team with experience over a Chicago team that is, I've heard a lot of people say this, at least a year ahead of schedule in a lot of ways. I mean, they're playing good football, but I don't know if they're ready for this kind of task against New England. I don't see New England losing this game after the way they played against Kansas City last week. And I expect their defense, even the Patriot defense, to play a little bit better than they did against Kansas City in their offense. So I'm going to take the Patriots to win their 4th in a row, get to 5-2 as they start to take full control of this division. What a shock. So I will take New England to win 30-21 over the Chicago Bears. Moving right along, let's talk about the Carolina Panthers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the Carolina Panthers haven't really gotten going yet. I know they're 3-2. They're in the thick of things in the NFC South, but in the times we've seen them this year, I'm not convinced that the Panthers are ready to make that move just yet. Losing last week to the Redskins, didn't play that great against the Washington team that was due to get a win. Week before that, they just barely got past the Giants, needed a 63-yard field goal just to beat them. Their first win of the year was an unimpressive victory over a Dallas team that isn't that great either. So even though they're 3-2, I'm still not convinced that this Panthers team is good enough to, let's just say at the very least, push the Saints for a division title right now. I just don't see it. Now, I know they have the talent. I know they have guys who have been there. I know the coach has been there. I know this team has potential to go out there and make some noise and certainly go to Philadelphia and win this game. But the Eagles right now coming off of a nice win against the Giants, a win they had to have. They had lost 2 in a row to the Eagles before this game. They then all of a sudden go into the Meadowlands and get healthy. Carson Wentz goes nuts, 278 yards through the air and 3 touchdowns. We start to see them go after the quarterback a little bit, and they smack around Eli Manning. I know it's the bad Giants team, but the point is the Eagles needed that win. They needed that confidence boost to get moving in the right direction again. And you kind of get the feeling that this could be the beginning of another run here for Philadelphia through this schedule. And the one thing that the Panthers do have an advantage of in this game is that they are a little bit healthier than the Eagles are in this game. Panthers only have one guy listed as out for this week. That's on the active roster. The Eagles have a whole bunch. DJ Alexander, Darren Sproles, Corey Graham, Sidney Jones, all those guys right now listed as out for the Eagles as of today. So, yes, the Eagles go into this thing a little banged up, but again, when you have a guy like Carson Wentz, when you have guys like Zach Ertz, Nelson Aguilar, Alshon Jeffrey that can make plays for this team down the field, I have a hard time picking against Philadelphia at home. I know they've been inconsistent this year. They haven't been great at home either, losing to the Vikings a couple weeks ago. They didn't play well their first game at home against the Atlanta Falcons, but I think for this week, I think they play better. I think they play better in front of their home fans, and they start to get that good feeling that they're starting to get this season moving in the right direction. Big game for both teams, but I like the Eagles to win 26-19 over the Carolina Panthers. Now, the next game that we have here is a game that I really have a hard time with and really have a hard time picking because both of these two teams are that good right now. You have the New Orleans Saints at 4-1, and you have the Baltimore Ravens at 4-2. A lot of people are on the Raven bandwagon going into this game. As I'm looking at the matchup predictor on ESPN, almost 61% of the respondents are picking the Ravens to win this game. Only 39% for the Saints. I say be very, very careful here. Now, look, the Ravens have the best defense in the National Football League right now. Their defense got 11 sacks last week against Marcus Mariota and the Tennessee Titans. They are legit. They look like an old-school Ravens defense in an NFL where defenses really aren't allowed to do the things that they have done in the past, to get after the quarterback, to force turnovers, and to just disrupt things. The Ravens have been able to survive, even with all these different kind of rule changes that have favored offense, the Ravens have thrived defensively. And this will be a classic game of the top offense going against the top defense, and usually in a lot of cases, the top defense finds a way to win. Now, here's an interesting stat. In the 3 games between these two teams, since Drew Brees has been in New Orleans as their quarterback, the Saints are 0-3 against the Ravens. Lost to the Ravens in 2006, lost to the Ravens in 2010, lost to the Ravens again in 2014. For whatever reason, the Ravens have owned the New Orleans Saints, and they have found ways to slow down Drew Brees in this offense. Now, the question is, can they do it again this time? As I said, this is a very tricky game. It's a lot closer than a lot of people think. And again, I know a lot of people love the Ravens because of what happened last week, but I say don't fall asleep on the Saints just yet. And it's not just from the obvious. With this offense, Drew Brees and what he can do, he's had another spectacular season. Hasn't thrown a pick yet. 11 touchdowns, no interceptions. I would expect he's going to throw an interception in this game against this defense. But with a guy like Alvin Kamara, could be a real change of pace here for this game. He could be an X factor, and I think the Saints are going to have to rely a lot on Alvin Kamara against this defense if they're going to get things done and get out of there with the win. So I think it could be a big game for him on Sunday. But this Saints defense, I know they're underrated. I know that a lot of people don't like to talk about the Saints defensively because we think about what happened earlier in the year where they got torched by Ryan Fitzpatrick in Week 1, gave up 37 points to the Falcons, almost lost to the Browns. Yes, their defense isn't great. Certainly not anywhere near the Baltimore Ravens. To even say the Saints defense and Ravens defense in the same sentence is an insult to the Ravens, okay? But their defense has played well the last couple of weeks. The last couple of games, they held the Redskins to just 19 points, held a bad Giants team to 18 points. So, starting to play a little bit better going into this game. Of course, coming off of a bye week. So we'll see what we can get, what we'll get out of the Saints defensively here. If they can slow down Joe Flacco and company, I think they can do that at the very least. It could get very interesting. It really could. I could see this being a one-possession game at the end. And for whatever reason, folks, my gut tells me, in spite of what everyone else is saying, I got a feeling the Saints are going to win this game. Now, it's no disrespect to the Ravens. I think if the Ravens win this game, they could start to take off in the AFC North. I think they probably will. They are the best team in the AFC North as far as I'm concerned. They're probably going to win the division regardless of what happens on Sunday. But I just have the feeling that the Saints, Drew Brees and company, are going to have at least one possession at the end of this game that's going to determine who wins this game. And I take the Saints to beat the Ravens in a close one, 27-23. Last game we'll talk about here, the game on Sunday night, the game that was flexed into Sunday Night Football. That's the Kansas City Chiefs against the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals at 4-2, Chiefs at 5-1. And I would imagine at this time around, very good chance that Brilliant Speaks is going to wrap up the quarterback this time. He is not going to let Andy Dalton get away the way he let Tom Brady get away last week. That was, of course, the big difference in the game as the Chiefs lost that game. They had a great comeback last week. But, of course, that play where Brilliant Speaks lets Tom Brady get into the end zone, really the difference in the game. If they sack Brady there, force a field goal, who knows what happens? Maybe the Chiefs find a way to win that football game. Regardless, the Chiefs have to feel pretty good about themselves. They know they can compete with the Patriots. So there's a good chance that we'll see those two teams again later in the year. But first of all, they got to take care of business this week against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Bengals coming into this game, as I said, 4-2. They had a heartbreaking loss against the Pittsburgh Steelers last week. For whatever reason, the Bengals just can't get over that hump of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it was like 17 or 18 in a row the Steelers have won against Cincinnati, I believe, in Cincinnati. It's some kind of crazy stat like that. I would have to go back and look, but it's insane. They just can't get past them. And now they go on the road on a Sunday night, take on this good Chiefs team. This is a bad spot if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. Had such a great start to the year. Andy Dalton playing fairly well. Running game has been nice here with Joe Mixon. The defense has done okay. Geno Atkins has with 6 sacks. Carlos Dunlap with 4 sacks. They've forced 5 turnovers defensively on the interceptions, 8 turnovers overall. But you just get the sense that the Bengals are going to start to be, well, the Bengals again. And this is the beginning of a big swing downward. Now, they do get the Bucs next week, but you get the point. I think Pat Mahomes is going to go in here. He's going to have a big day again. against this Bengals defense. There's nothing really to write home about there with the Bengals defensively. I could see Kareem Hunt having a big day. I just could see a big day overall for Kansas City. Does the Chiefs defense worry me? Absolutely, and that's what's going to keep the Bengals in this football game. But I could see the Chiefs pulling out late, another high-scoring game, and the Chiefs will win and get the 6-1 in the year, 38-27. I'm taking the Chiefs to beat the Bengals. All right, so those are my picks for the big games coming up this week. Now, let's talk about these other games that are coming up this week. So let me pull up the stat right there, and there you go. There's the graphic. Chargers and the Titans. This game will be in London. Another game in London with the West Coast team. Who knew? And this is actually considered a Chargers home game. I bet you there'll actually be more Charger fans in London than there are in Los Angeles. Just saying. Hey, I mean, the NFL is now concerned about the Chargers right now as far as how much revenue and everything else they can bring in LA. Boy, that was that big time mistake. Big time mistake to go to LA. Regardless, they still have a good team. The Titans are awful. They can't move the football at all. Marcus Mariota, as far as I'm concerned, is overrated. Chargers win 29-17. Buffalo Bills and the Indianapolis Colts. Colts are 1-5, but man, if they just had a couple of games break their way, they could be at least 3-3 for that matter. Had a chance against the Jets, but they just kept turning the football over last week. I expect them against the bad Bills team that now is going with Derek Anderson at starting quarterback because of the injury to Josh Allen. Yeah, it's going to be all Colts. The Colts will get their second win, 41-17 over the bad, awful, stinking Bills. Browns and Bucks. All jokes aside, remember when this game would have been like who's the loser gets the number one pick? Well, not the case this year. Not the case. The Bucks have been on a downward spiral since that great start with Fitzpatrick. Jameis Winston has come back now. It has been a lot of fun. You have to like what you saw from the Browns early in the year, but again, they got smacked around by the Chargers last week. Not a great matchup. Someone's got to win. I know the Browns have a lot of energy there with Baker Mayfield, but I will take the Bucks to squeak one out at home, 21-20 over the Cleveland Browns. The Jaguars and the Texans. You talk about a team that needs to win. The Jacksonville Jaguars absolutely need to win. This team was rolling a couple weeks ago. They were 3-1 at one point. They looked like the kings of the AFC, and now they're just trying to get by. A loss to the Texans. They'll be under 500, folks. So this is a big game for the Jaguars, coming off of a bad loss to the Cowboys last week. I expect Jacksonville to play well. I expect their defense to go after Deshaun Watson and company. Jaguars win 27-17. Now, never trust the Miami Dolphins. Ever. Now, I picked the Dolphins to win last week against the Bears. I didn't think it was a great pick. It ended up working out. Thanks in big part to the Bears missing a field goal in overtime, bailing out the Dolphins at the end of that game. Brock Osweiler is going to get another start. I know he looked great last week, but it is Brock Osweiler. At some point, the carriage is going to turn into a pumpkin here. And I just got to like the Lions on the road here. Lions are 0-2 on the road. Dolphins are 3-0 at home. Something's got to give. I'm going to take the Lions, Matthew Stafford. And, of course, when you have Matt Patricia, who knows this Dolphins team, that gives the Lions a bit of a leg up. Of course, Patricia being the former defensive coordinator of the Patriots. So I'll take the Lions to win 29-27. Cowboys-Redskins, classic old-school NFC East matchup. And I'll take the Cowboys to keep the momentum going from what they accomplished last week. Scored 40 against the Jaguars. Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott looking good last week. I'll take the Cowboys in a mini upset on the road, 20-17 over the Skins. Rams and the Niners, I don't even know why I even bother. You see the score there, 31-12, Rams all over the Niners. And then the Giants and the Falcons in a battle of two teams that couldn't stop a nosebleed. In this case, the Falcons find a way to stop the Giants in a shootout, 38-27. That's right, the Giants get close to getting a 30, but still can't score a 30. Falcons win 38-27 over the hapless Giants as they fall to 1-7, and the Falcons miraculously pull themselves to within a game of 500 at 3-4. So those are my picks here for this week, folks. Again, follow us on the social media, facebook.com/OpenMicProgram, at OpenMicNJ on Twitter, and of course, like and subscribe right here to the Sports Talk Nation. We'll talk to you next time.